problem, but as a full-on spiritual battle. Everything we're going to talk about comes straight from the source material of several Christian ministries who specialize in this exact approach to finding freedom. So let's just jump right in with a question that kind of reframes the whole conversation. Is addiction simply a disease? Is it just a choice? Well, while medical and psychological views are absolutely important, the sources we're looking at today say, hey, wait a minute, there's a third dimension here, and that's the spiritual one. All right, here's what we've got on tap. We're going to start by looking at addiction through this different lens. Then we'll dig into what's considered the spiritual root cause. From there, we'll check out the biblical authority behind all this, walk through the actual path to freedom, and wrap up with how to keep fighting that good fight. Okay, so first things first, let's put on this different set of glosses, so to speak. The whole framework we're exploring suggests that if you really want to understand addiction, you have to look past the physical stuff, past the symptoms, and start considering an unseen spiritual reality. And this right here really lays out the two different ways of thinking. See, on the left, you've got the secular explanations we're probably all familiar with. It's a medical disease, it's genetic, it's caused by trauma. Now, these ministries aren't dismissing that, but they'd say that's often just treating the symptoms. Their perspective, over on the right, points to something deeper, a spiritual root cause. They use terms like demonic strongholds or a specific spirit of addiction that traps a person in spiritual bondage. So, if the root cause is spiritual, what does that even mean? How do you identify an influence you can't see? Well, let's dig into how these sources explain it. Okay, so get this. According to one of our sources, Above and Beyond Christian Counseling, when they talk about a spirit of addiction, they don't mean it as a metaphor. Nope. They're describing an actual demonic entity that they believe takes up residence in a person's soul. Its whole purpose, based on their reading of John 10:10, is to torment a person's thoughts and just push them toward destruction. And a really critical idea here is this concept of open doors. The belief is that these spirits don't just invade at random. They get in through specific weak spots or vulnerabilities in a person's life. We're talking about things like abuse and trauma, personal sin, or getting involved in the occult. But it also includes things you might not have heard of, like ungodly soul ties, think deep, unhealthy spiritual connections, and even generational curses, which is the idea that the fallout from sin can literally be passed down through a family. Okay, so if the problem is a spiritual one, then where do you get the power to fight it? That is a great question, and it brings us right to the foundation of all this, the biblical authority that underpins what's called deliverance ministry. You see, these ministries ground their entire practice in the words of Jesus Christ himself. This verse you see here from Mark's Gospel, it's a big one. It's often pointed to as a direct command, a promise that believers would have the authority in his name to drive out demons. And the New Testament is full of examples that really drive this home, like the story of the Gerasene demoniac. It's an incredible account where Jesus confronts a man possessed by a whole host of demons, so many they call themselves Legion. Jesus just tells them to leave, and bam, they're gone. It's a demonstration of absolute authority, and the key belief here is that he has delegated that same authority to his followers. So, how does that authority actually work in practice? What do you do? Well, let's look at the practical, step-by-step process these ministries lay out. This isn't just about having a belief system, it's about a prescribed path to real, tangible freedom. So drawing from influential works like The Bondage Breaker, the whole process boils down to a few really decisive, prayerful actions. First, you have to verbally renounce any involvement with counterfeit spiritual stuff. Then, and this is huge, you have to choose to forgive anyone who's wronged you. That's seen as slamming the door shut on these spiritual entry points. After that, it's about confessing pride, submitting to God, and specifically renouncing the bondage you're struggling with. And the final step? You verbally claim your freedom in Jesus Christ, pretty much canceling all satanic assignments against you. All right, so let's say someone goes through those steps and claims that freedom. Is that it? Are they done? Well, the sources are really clear on this. Absolutely not. In fact, that's not the end of the journey. It's the beginning of a whole new way of life. Yeah, what's so crucial to get here is that deliverance isn't some one-and-done magic wand. It's the starting pistol for daily spiritual warfare, for fighting the good fight. And that means you have to be active. You're guarding your tongue, no more calling yourself an addict. You're using your authority in prayer. You're constantly renewing your mind with the truth. And you've got to be plugged into a solid Bible-believing church for real accountability. Because, and this is key, the understanding is that these spirits will try to come back. You have to actively resist them. It's all about learning to trust God, especially through the hard times and the trials that are sure to come. So, at the end of the day, this whole perspective really challenges us to think about human suffering in a new way. It asks us to consider that beyond the physical, beyond the psychological, there might just be a spiritual battle raging. And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. What really changes when you start to see your personal struggles not just as something to be managed, but as a spiritual fight that can actually be won?